Gary Wilson, Your Brain on Porn, Internet Pornography and the Emerging Science of Addiction. The facts are in. Young people these days are experiencing more depression and anxiety than ever, and pornography is partially to blame. On top of that, young men are facing record levels of erectile dysfunction, and studies point toward high-speed internet pornography as a major factor. This makes sense. An estimated 99% of young men in Western countries have been exposed to pornography, and rates of porn addiction are on the rise. The damage to human sexuality and our ability to reproduce is very real, yet the medical profession for the most part doesn't take pornography addiction seriously. There is hope, however. More and more studies are being published that show the dangers of pornography addiction. What's more, we now know that the damage caused by this addiction can be reversed. In this link to Gary Wilson's Your Brain on Porn, we'll take a look at the root causes of pornography addiction, explore how excessive porn consumption changes the brain, and dive into how to quit porn for good. How pornography addiction works. Over the past 2 decades, the world has welcomed the widespread adoption of high-speed internet. In many ways, it's made our lives better. All the world's information is at our fingertips. At the same time, high-speed internet triggered a transformation of the porn industry. Gone are the days of buying pornographic magazines or videotapes. Now, an infinite amount of porn can be freely accessed with a click of a button. This has led to a significant spike in the number of people who watch porn on a regular basis. Considering all this, it comes as no surprise that pornography addiction is on the rise. But when does porn consumption end and porn addiction begin? Well, it turns out compulsive porn viewing can lead to changes in the brain that are similar to those seen in drug addiction. If you or someone you know has been addicted to a substance or gambling, you probably know the signs. For example, if you've ever tried to cut back or quit watching porn only to return to it against your better judgment, you might be addicted. Perhaps you can't control the urge to watch porn even if it interferes with your responsibilities, relationships, or commitments. And if you continue watching porn even after realizing the negative consequences it's having on your life, then it might be time to consider seeking help. In recent years, there's been an increase in research examining the negative consequences of porn addiction. One of the most studied areas is the link between excessive use of porn and sexual dysfunction, particularly erectile dysfunction and premature ejaculation. The statistics on erectile dysfunction, or ED for short, are shocking to say the least. 6 studies since 2010 found ED rates of 14 to 33% in young men, a 1,000% increase from the 2 to 3% rate found in studies before the age of high-speed internet. There is also evidence that excessive porn consumption can lead to decreased amounts of gray matter in the brain. This suggests that prolonged exposure to porn can result in difficulty focusing, problems with storing memories, a decrease in self-regulation, and a heightened risk of depression. Maybe you can relate to some of these negative effects of porn addiction. But if you think you might have a porn problem, don't worry. Evidence suggests that the negative effects of porn addiction aren't permanent, and that abstaining for as little as 1 month can have huge benefits for your mental health, cognitive function, and relationships. It's also important to remember that you're not alone. A growing movement of porn quitters has accompanied the increasing prevalence of porn addiction. It styles itself as the NoFap community, and it's filled with people who've quit or are trying to quit porn. Internet forums such as the NoFap subreddit provide resources, support, and encouragement for people trying to cure their addiction to porn. The struggle is real, and many members of the NoFap community admit that quitting porn was the hardest thing they've ever done. Pornography and the brain. To overcome a porn addiction, it's important to first understand how it comes about. After all, the more we understand a problem, the better chance we have at solving it. As with many compulsive behaviors, the roots of porn addiction lie with a neurotransmitter called dopamine. You've probably heard of it before, and for good reason. Dopamine is the craving chemical in your brain. It works like this. When you engage in any pleasurable activity, the brain releases dopamine, creating a feeling of satisfaction. This release of dopamine reinforces the behavior that led to the pleasurable experience in the first place, making it more likely that you'll repeat the behavior in the future. It's a powerful chemical, which makes sense. After all, it's vital for human survival. Without it, you wouldn't feel pleasure from eating, drinking, or having sex, making it difficult to engage in these activities at all. Here's the problem, though. Dopamine is also released when we engage in pleasurable activities that aren't vital for survival, such as drug use or porn consumption. When you watch porn, dopamine is released in the same way it is when you eat. This creates a feeling of pleasure, which in turn reinforces the behavior of viewing pornography, making it more likely that you'll watch more porn in the future. It's a vicious cycle, to say the least. And it gets worse. Over time, as you consume more pornography, the brain becomes desensitized to the stimuli. It requires more novel or hardcore content to achieve the same level of pleasure and release the same amount of dopamine. This can result in, well, you guessed it, porn addiction. Over time, the repeated overstimulation of the brain by consuming excessive pornography can change how your brain releases dopamine altogether. Prolonged porn addiction can desensitize the brain's reward system, making it difficult to experience pleasure from normal reward-inducing activities like eating. This means you might become more susceptible to other addictive behaviors such as overeating. What's particularly worrying is that it can decrease the pleasure you get from ordinary sexual experiences. After all, the amount of dopamine released from achieving orgasm involving an infinite amount of novelty and partners is going to be much higher than repeated sex with one person. This can make forming lasting sexual relationships difficult. There's another phenomenon at play here called the Coolidge effect. It's a behavior found mostly in males, where men show renewed sexual interest when introduced to new receptive sexual partners. The evolutionary goal behind the Coolidge effect is that by encouraging the pursuit of new sexual partners, the chance of successful reproduction increases. When it comes to porn, the Coolidge effect helps to explain why men are more likely than women to develop porn addiction. Combined with the dopamine cycle, the Coolidge effect can create a powerful addiction loop where you're always seeking out new and often more extreme content with an endless amount of virtual partners. The cruel irony is, of course, that the dopamine system and Coolidge effect are both meant to increase the chances of successful reproduction. But in the context of porn addiction, they can lead to sexual dysfunction. In this respect, it's not a stretch to say that porn addiction might be literally endangering the survival of our species. Saying goodbye to porn addiction. So far, it seems there's a pretty solid case against excessive porn consumption. If you agree and feel that you might be watching too much porn yourself, then it might be time to consider quitting. Luckily, the negative effects of porn addiction on your mental and physical health are reversible. Studies show that the benefits of quitting porn start to appear quickly. Evidence suggests that it only takes 1 week of abstaining from porn for gray matter to begin increasing in the brain. Other studies show that quitting porn can help relieve symptoms of erectile dysfunction over time. Anecdotal accounts from countless members of the NoFap community attest to the many benefits of quitting porn. These can include better mental health and the return of natural arousal and intimacy in relationships. Some report these benefits appearing in as little as a month. On the longer end of the scale, 90 days pops up a lot in online accounts. The stories of how people have turned their lives around by quitting porn are inspiring. It's definitely worth checking out. The NoFap subreddit is a great place to start. Now, as with any addiction, porn can be hard to quit. After all, if it were easy, this blink wouldn't serve much of a purpose. Luckily, there are a number of strategies that different people have employed to aid them in quitting porn. For starters, Wilson recommends going cold turkey when trying to cure your porn addiction. You're more likely to be successful if you stop watching porn entirely rather than trying to reduce the amount over time. Another strategy that many in the NoFap community recommend is to abstain from masturbating for at least 30 days after quitting porn. This will help the brain rewire itself. When you start masturbating again, be careful not to create porn-like fantasies in your imagination when masturbating. This can trigger the dopamine system in a similar way to watching porn. The key here is to help your brain help itself. By starving it from pornographic stimuli, you can effectively begin reversing the damage that your porn addiction caused. Once you've committed to these ground rules, it's time to begin your life free from porn. Of course, this is easier said than done. There are likely a number of triggers in your everyday environment that have led you to watch porn in the past. Identify these triggers and try to avoid them if possible. For example, if sitting alone at your desk at night was previously a trigger, try rearranging your furniture. Move your desk to the other side of the room. This will help dissociate it with the cue to watch porn. Next up, delete all porn from your devices and unfollow any sexually suggestive accounts on your social media. You might also want to delete dating apps, as these can act as a trigger to watch porn. Try to desexualize your online activities as much as possible. You could even install a filtering app that blocks out pornographic websites. Of course, these can often be easily deactivated, but they still act as a tool to help build up your self-control while your brain repairs its willpower. It's also important to remember that your mental health and porn addiction have a symbiotic relationship. When your mental health is bad, your addiction can become worse. And when you engage too much in your addiction, your mental health is bound to suffer. So a good way to lower the chance you'll relapse is to improve your mental health. 2 great habits you can start building right away are exercise and meditation. Studies show that both of these activities can improve dopamine regulation as well as self-control. Finally, consider joining the NoFap community online or find a local support group. Countless users credit these communities with helping them avoid a relapse. When you have the urge to watch porn and all other strategies have failed, the inspiring stories on the NoFap subreddit may be exactly what you need. Don't forget, you're not alone. In this blink to Your Brain on Porn by Gary Wilson, you've learned that porn addiction exploded with the advent of widespread high-speed internet. And while studies show it can damage your mental health and sexual function, these effects aren't permanent. Abstaining from porn helps the brain repair itself, and you might see results in as little as 30 days. Here's one final tip. When you have the urge to relapse, take a cold shower. It might be painful at first, but your body will acclimate quickly. Just 60 seconds under a cold shower has been shown to increase dopamine, helping you to get your fix. It'll also help build your willpower and improve your mood. Give it a try. Thank you so much for listening, and if you can, please leave us a rating or a comment. We always appreciate your feedback. See you in the next blink. Bye.